Okay. We're live streaming. YouTube is usually about 10 seconds behind us. I just want to make sure it's functioning before we start. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start. Even though people are still joining, I want to make sure that we're honoring the time. It's 6:01. So good evening, welcome. It's good to see you all here in your names. We had a group of people who were joining us who've never heard of us before. So I want to just let you know, my name is Judy Kitt. I'm the president of the Foundation for Mind Being Research, which we go by the acronym of FMBR. And it's a nonprofit, all volunteer run organization that's been around for 42 years now, founded in 1980. And it was founded really by scientists and artists and healers who were interested in exploring human consciousness. And so for the last 4 decades, we've been looking at that bridge between science and spirituality, ancient wisdom traditions, that kind of sweet spot where they all meet. And it's a great place to be exploring. So you can check us out at fmbr.org or our YouTube channel. Most of our presentations are available on our YouTube channel, which is FMBR TV, and we're live streaming to YouTube right now. So you can go over there, you can subscribe to our channel, and then you'll get notifications when we're going live. So if you have any questions for this evening, if you're on YouTube, just put them in the chat and we have somebody who will ask me via text. And if you're on the Zoom call, then go ahead and just put your questions in the chat box, or if you're feeling brave and want to raise your hand and ask the questions yourself, you can do that. So we're really just grateful that Maureen Edwardson is here today. She's the originator of Inner Resonance Technologies, IRT, which she's going to be talking to us about today. She's been studying, evolving, and sharing the IRT protocol, which is fully explained in her book, Your Magical Evolutionary Code Unleashed, The Science of Inner Resonance, for 30 years. Just as an aside, her book is really great. It's a great read. I think I read it in 2 sittings. I couldn't put it down. Maureen has shared these teachings internationally with First Nations people and shamans and Western scientists all over the world. Her work is referenced by Dr. Bruce Lipton in 2 of his books. So she currently has an online practice, an international practice, facilitating the wake up and empowerment of the global system, both individually and with cutting edge groups that are creating breakthrough technologies which address our current crises in order to shift our collective paradigm into one of greater empowerment, which is just right, exactly what we're interested in. She was a consultant and featured expert in the recently released film, The Grand Self movie, which I will put a link to in the chat. She also hosted her own TV show on the Awake TV network for 3 seasons. So, and lastly, Maureen is just a dear friend and soul sister. So Maureen, thank you for being here this evening. We were talking earlier about how people are feeling really huge shifts these days. And some of the shifts can be kind of challenging, right? And I think the importance of your work is just, among other things, to remind us that we have choice, that we are creators. And we're so glad that you're here to share your work with us. So welcome. Oh, you're muted.
Oh my goodness. Yes, I was with the First Nations group earlier today and I learned how to be silent, but I need to unmic myself now. So here we are. And thank you so much for the invitation. It's always my joy and my delight to share the experience of inner resonance with as many people as possible. And you're all invited to share if you like it and help others just even by watching a recording or listening to a recording. People have major shifts happen for them, for which I'm very grateful. to be a conduit. And just so you know, at the get-go, there's nothing I do to you or for you. I've developed a system which is like a formula. I call the formula of questions. I call it a protocol. I don't know what else to call it. Formula of questions that activates that internal part of your own greater self, your higher self, your superconscious, that then has all the information and knows what's relevant, what's no longer necessary, what's interfering with you, again, without any useful positive purpose. And so, yes, and Judy, actually that, I was just about to say that Link to the Grand Self movie is no longer valid because he had to, James A. Sinclair had to kind of redo all his funnels. And so it's very simple now. It's www.grandselfmovie.com.
Okay, I'll put that in.
Thank you. Or just erase the rest of it,
Oh, I see. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, whatever that works. Anyhow, so so there's so many different pathways and so many ways of bringing ourselves into our greater selves, full expression of wholeness. And these are times of great crises. We're on that edge, that threat of the sixth world mass extinction, this time apparently caused by humans. And so, this is the time that has been prophesied as the time of the great shift of the ages. And we need the quickening, we need to have faster ways. And so, of course, serendipitously, we're waking up to that greater quantum selves where there is no time or space, so that we can exponentially shift both ourselves, and in doing so, even effortlessly allow everyone else around us to shift. Because even though a simple act of wholeness and healing and a positive thought affects everybody around us and the whole world, they say, with the butterfly effect, this work is actually, IRT, I call it, inner resonance technologies, is actually designed to have direct, instant and spontaneous opportunity, if you will, for those that are nearest and dearest, both heart and DNA connected, the people that we're most, intimately connected with in one way or another. They are the ones closest in our energy field. So they will get the greatest opportunity. And, and for example, worked with a woman who's had a bit of an alcohol issue, wasn't really bad, but she didn't like any of it. So her grown-up son was full-blown alcoholic and complete denial, and she wanted him to do some sessions with me. And I said, hey, let's just work with you first and see what happens. So she did a few sessions, and a few weeks later, her son called her up and said, hey, Mom, I realized, I really do have an alcohol problem and it's just not working. And I've signed up to go to treatment. He had never in all his adult years gone to treatment. And this came from within his own urging and his own knowing and his own choice. So this is the kind of thing that can happen. And so just to let you know, to watch for those sort of good news, events. Because this work is actually it works beyond your conscious mind. It works beyond your body's need to process or act anything out. It's truly a different paradigm because we're so used to dealing with the effects. The physical body is the experiencer. And so what is the link between the mind and the body? And Bruce Lipton speaks of it, really specifically and with great clarity. For the layperson to understand in his biology of belief, the mechanisms between thoughts and feelings and behavioral outcome in the body. And, I did a lot of studying of his work. I would go 4 times a year whenever he came to Vancouver here and sit in the middle front row, asking him all the questions, that he didn't always know the answers to, and, giving him great credit back all those years ago. He would go home and search out the answers, and then next time come back and have that next level of understanding through the portals of his science of what he had sources to that I had no ability to go directly as a layperson. So I was always very grateful for that. And very grateful that he acknowledges that IRT is a practical application of his science, and now also of quantum science. I have been connected with the Resonance Science Foundation and the Resonance Academy, that is Nassim Haramein's unified field physics, and first encountered that in 2007 and became an official member 2009. In the very first delegate training that Nassim taught himself, there were about 300 of us in the room of all like minds. It was just mind-blowing for all of us, and really an exceptional gathering, and became a certified delegate of his science, and still a contributing active member. And while it's not necessary to know all the science because everything is already within us, sometimes I like understanding things. I don't know about you guys. So it's often good to have those sources available that we can go down those rabbit holes and fill our boots with understandings that allow us to connect the dots in our own understandings and our own awarenesses. And the good news is that IRT is effortless. You don't need to know or anything. You don't have to relive, re-experience anything, because as Bruce Lipton also teaches, we're all out of our minds, right? Because our mind is in a field all around us, and the body is like a radio receiving the signals, or a computer, or whatever it is. In fact, the body is a supercomputer. It's a quantum machine. And I learned this from Dr. William Brown at the Resonance Science Academy. And his version of our bodies is that we have 100 trillion cells. Other people talk about 35, 50. I don't know who counts these these cells, but we have apparently, all those, hundreds of thousands of, trillions of cells in our body, and there's been no test after, and you can jot down notes or not. You'll have the recording if you really want to have this information. If it's new to you, you may already know all of this. And so basically, out of the 100 trillion cellular system that we are sitting in with our spirit, breathing ourselves into our communication device, each tiny neuron has 100,000 potential connections. Okay, so the really mind-blowing part to me is that each one of those 100,000 potential connections have 85 billion wormholes into other dimensional realities. So we're sitting in a quantum computing system, instantly responding to our field and to consciousness, and it's just most remarkable. It's truly mind-blowing. We're sitting in a multi-dimensional quantum machine experiencing this realm. And so, as Bruce says, we're all out of our mind because our mind is having all of the memory that is in the field that, pokes, at our body, giving us the pain or the trauma revisited, or a good experience, and also we know that at the conscious level, we're aware of 5% of our overall consciousness. And what's really also very interesting is that 99.9% of what we're consciously aware of in the 5% is looping up from the old programs. We think that we have original choice and thoughts, and change your thoughts, change your life, and yet 0.1% access to original thought beyond program. And so the good news of that is that not all the program's bad, thank goodness. And it's 0.1% of infinite. So who wants more? Yeah, me. I want more. And those are just generalized, statistics. And also we know that at the conscious level, we're taking in 40 bits of information every second. And when you first hear that, well, that's pretty cool when you stop to think about it. 40 bits every second, like, whoa. And yet at the subconscious, where a lot of the reprogramming techniques and hypnotherapy and all those kind of things, they process at 40 million bits per second. The subconscious programs at 40 million bits per second. That's a lot, better now. I like those odds a little better. And yet, beyond the subconscious, which is considered, a tape recorder of everything that's happened to us, and that just acts out, and makes us puppets, right? Or like a bunch of iron filings with a magnet. We're yanked about. Where's this free will we talk about? And so Einstein is quoted as saying that the field is the sole governing agency of the particle. We're the particle. And so consciousness runs the show. So how do we access that? I work with a lot of very highly conscious leaders in the world, and really people that understand all the science, and they know how it all works, and yet they're run down, they're sick, they're tired, they're maybe have heart conditions or arthritis or whatever it might be, and so how do we access that part of us, that superconscious part that has the governing agency of our particles and of our physicality? How do we bridge science of consciousness with our bodies? And how do we do the whole mind body being that we have within us? Because we're breathing it in every moment. That's what the breath is. The breath is life. The breath is source energy. The breath is a quantum field of all of the potential. So what's wrong with the picture, right? And so right now also we're getting bombarded with all these super high frequencies that are really squeezing all of what's not aligned, all of what's not healthy, because there's no place as the light increases in a greater and greater intensity. There's no place for the shadows and the old stuff that no longer works for us to hide, right? You turn on the light, when it's dark at night. What happens to the shadows? Do they cling to the door and the window going, no, I'm not leaving? No. I mean, it's just pure science. It has no place to exist. So dark is not opposite of light. It's the absence of light. Take a moment to think about that. In the same way, that fear and anger are not opposite to love, because love is all there is. And so there is no opposite to love. It's the absence of love, or absence of the perception of love. And we know, according to epigenetics, and I consider, Bruce Lipton as the father of epigenetics. And I'm so, happy to hear other people refer him as that, including Greg Braden and some of his good buddies there. Father of epigenetics, because it's not what our experience is, it's what our perception of experiences. And epigenetics, I don't know, I'm sure the people in your group all understand what that is, but just to briefly reiterate, epi means above our genes, genetics. So it's a signal above the gene that actually activate the expression of the gene. And so that's our environment. And our environment has lots of factors in it. However, the main driver of our experience, of our expression, of our genetic expression even, is our emotions and our thoughts, right? That's the gas that runs the system. Yeah. And so the good news is that all that information is sitting in our field in patterns of informational energy, just much like a computer in cyberspace. And much the same as a computer, we can actually go to the keyboard and say, all right, put a command. We call a command putting a command into the keyboard, correct? But we're not used to thinking of ourselves and our higher consciousness as our ability to command our vehicle and our experience, out there. However, it is the truth. And the more we practice, the more we realize that it's such an interactive universe. And we don't have to know it all. We don't have to re-experience, or we don't have to relive anything, because the beauty is in this next level of what we're opening up to as we re-identify ourselves in our perceptions as truly as spiritual beings having a physical experience. That then starts to shift things a lot more rapidly, because that's our quantum self. And it's just pure science. And our subconscious and our bodies already know this. So you give them the right, questions. Remember, it's always, the answers are always in, the question, if that makes any sense, knowing what question to ask. And apparently I had that gift to be able to ask the right question and get results that, other people didn't seem to be getting. So I just followed that, I just follow my nose. I call it lily pad jumping. And in the early days when I was doing workshops about 30 years ago, when I first started, I really felt embarrassed asking people for money, because I felt I was learning more, and process together, because we are co-creating. We're our teachers and students with each other always. So, again, it's just in process and an experience that I have, remembered. And I don't know if any of you, know palmistry at all, but, or maybe you do or don't believe in it, but I don't even know what to believe. But I just know that several people have told me that apparently I mastered the mind in other lifetimes. Well, can you imagine someone telling you that even once, never mind 2 or 3 times or 4 times even? I just laughed my butt off so hard. I could have been rolling on the floor. It was just so ludicrous. What a crazy thought. What? No, I don't think so, but thank you, for whatever, perception or whatever you're reading into anything. That would not be me, I said. Well, I guess apparently there is something within me that does know. And excuse me, from any kind of incarnational experience or, genetic experience, or, just being part of the oneness. Because, scientists like David Suzuki, oh gosh, I'm talking a lot. I know that's what I'm here for. Excuse me. Scientists like David Suzuki actually tell us that, we're breathing in molecules of memory. We're breathing in molecules of memory from Buddha, from the Christ, from, Jesus, from Hitler, from all the greats, all the not so greats. We are one with each other through our breath. And I was saying, I was out with First Nations group this afternoon, and, they say all my relations, because they already understand the interconnectedness of all and one. And so we have got to such a point of separation and discord and up against and blame and shame. And it just makes me want to choke. Because truly, we are not separate from anything or anyone. Have a little wash and which will soothe. Excuse me 1 second. I've been driving, talking all day, if you can believe it. So the really good news is there's a simple, non-invasive way to activate and catalyze the part of you that already knows who you are, that knows how to dissolve and neutralize all the what I call static in your field from unresolved issues. And some of those unresolved issues are not even ours. If you want to talk about, I say there's no separation, we're all one and part of the whole history. And yet a direct causal link, to some of our inherited issues. I encounter a lot of people and my clients that have never had a full complement of happy, healthy chemistry in their brain, because when they were swimming around inside, their mothers were traumatized or experiencing a lot of anxiety, and that's what they were imprinted with. Makes sense, right? And then they're born into the environment that just amplifies that and validates it. And then, working with some people that have been on medications for as long as they can ever remember, right back to when they were little. And so then guess what happens when we medicate from the outside, even though we need to, no blame or anything or shame around this, but the actual science is that those receptors, because honestly, we cannot take anything within ourselves that our body doesn't already produce. So from that point of view, we have to have our own internal pharmacy. And Bruce Lipton also talks a lot about that as a cellular biologist. And so what happens is our own internal receptors go, hey, I got a source, I can go to sleep now, and I can shut down. And then, those connections kind of shrink and shrivel, in the brain and in the body, so that we don't have as much access to our natural inner chemistry, our internal inner technologies, as I call it. And so it's really good news that as soon as you clear all of the old programs that are interfering with your ability to create your own wholeness and your own good chemistry and your own frequency of your greater self, then all that stuff comes back online, because your original blueprint then has space and freedom to reassert itself. So it's pretty amazing. We are alchemical machines. And just think about, when you're eating a dinner, however healthy or delicious it might be, if you get a phone call in the middle, about something, or even just before, or eating dinner in a feeling state of upsetness, or you just get some really traumatic news, devastating news. How's that food going to digest? I think we've all experienced that similar kind of situation. How is that food going to be metabolized? Again, good old Bruce is getting quoted a lot here tonight, and I'm really grateful to him for all his understandings and his science, along with many, many others. But, Bruce is a source of a lot of understanding that makes sense to me. And so he said, you are not the food you eat. You are what the consciousness of the cell allows to be metabolized. Think about that one for a moment. So if you're eating in a state of upset or anger or frustration, you're not getting the same nutritional benefit from the food. You're not digesting it appropriately. And so we can maximize all that by neutralizing what is no longer relevant to this time and place. And again, a current situation that you get a phone call, that's upsetting news, of course, that is current. So how do we respond to that? What is our resilience factor? And the more you can clear out what's sitting in the background using time and space, one of my very first computers, what's the very first one, that it only had 1 megabyte of memory. And the guy that gave it to me, oh, you'll never use more than this, And then my daughter, I don't know, she was in her late teens. She was doing online computer support. And so she called her upline, her boss, and said, my mom says she only has, one, maybe I think it was megabyte. I don't know about all these bytes, but it's very tiny. And is it possible that she only has this amount of memory? And he said, yeah. So there's no hope, because my computer crashed, and because it was overwhelmed with information and couldn't process anymore. And we're kind of like that. We get overwhelmed with all the information bombarding our field, and not only of our own experience, but oh my goodness, what's happening in the world today, guys? Yeah. And you can even just look at the last 2 years if you like. Overwhelming, overwhelming what's happening in the world today around us. And guess what? There is no separation. We're part of and one with, as empathic energy beings. At some level, we're feeling it. And sometimes, other people have better filters than others. Other times we've got our own experiences that are, let's say, on the lower frequency side. So we're a little bit more vulnerable to hearing news or even being in the field of news. Not even having to be conscious of it. We're bombarded energetically. Do you know that a while back, actually, quite a while back, I heard that information on the planet was doubling every 12 hours. Originally, it was every 25 years, information would double, and then, incrementally, here we are. And who knows what's going to be next week? If information is doubling every 12 hours at this moment, we're in a time of accelerated consciousness. And so the good news is that we do have the capacity, limitless capacity, to filter out what's not relevant to us. And yet our main opportunity, if you will, is that through IRT and hopefully other techniques that are emerging that are similar in its, in their ability to address beyond thought, beyond program, beyond our body's need to experience, re-experience, that we can go direct to our field and allow our superconscious level that has the whole big picture to neutralize, to let go, clear, rebalance, realign us, activate the greater part of us with hearts for humanity, because we're all beings of service. That's who you are here. That's why you're showing up here. That's why you're curious. That's why you're looking to connect for connection with like-minded people. And that is wonderful. But how do we address, it's overwhelming, totally overwhelming. And then, as you mentioned, Judy, the energies, the Schumann resonance is off the charts for hours at a time, rather than spikes. Forgot to turn my phone off, my sound off here. Oh my goodness. I have to open it up to close it down. So, yeah, it's really good news that we have opportunity to address all of this information, because anger, frustration, all those frequencies have a similar chemistry. So like Stanislav Grof's breathwork many years ago, they first thought scientifically that there were particular areas of our brain to process anger, another one for frustration, another one for sadness, other for all these different emotions and feelings that we have, until they finally learned that maybe those are the parts of our brain that receiving the signals, but the signals actually come from out here. And scientists are now showing us the proof of that. And so it's very interesting. So IRT is one way of activating the part of us that knows how to, from within our own selves, neutralize what is no longer relevant or serving any useful purpose to drag forward. Like nothing, no. It just clogs up the system so that we have all the static, so we can't get the clear energy to regenerate ourselves. How we can't access inspiration in the way that we love, how we're not as creative as we used to be, and how we're not feeling so connected, especially the last couple of years. And so are there any questions from anybody at this point?
I don't see any in the chat.
Okay, just inviting any questions. And so I just love, the science of consciousness. And there's so many great books, so many great resources of ways that we can fill our understandings of who we truly are if we're interested in that. And yeah, why wouldn't we be? Is my thought.
I have a question for you, Maureen. So this inner technology is something that you developed over the course of time. What was the impetus? And you're gonna walk us through sort of an experience of it as well, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. But how did it come about?
That is quite the question. I just kind of laughingly say I stumbled, into it. I had no clue about who I was and what I'm here to, to serve with and to share. Had no clue. And I guess it was my late 30s. I was in a difficult relationship, abusive relationship, and I went for help because I thought nobody would still be there, nobody else would still be there. And but in any case, and that together with the death of my mother put me into this place of searching and deep, deep grief, deep disconnection, no clue who I was. So I kind of say I stumbled into it, but it really activated something of my own gifts that I had no idea that I had. And I said, alluded earlier that I have a bit of a gift to ask a certain question that has a different answer than other people that know better, that already have the training and the science that I didn't have. And so I came as an innocent, with questions. And I have also the gift to interrelate information that connect the dots, so to speak. And so, yeah, one thing led to the other. I call it lily pad jumping. I was here and, oh, there's a shiny object over there. That's kind of an interesting thought. Let's go learn about that. And then that leads to something else. And then you're going over here and you think you're going over here to learn this, but really you're here to connect with this one person that has another piece for you. So it was, an organic, I call myself unconsciously conscious sometimes, a very organic process that led me from one thing to the other. And then took training I have a lot of different trainings. And so that what it allowed me to do was to see the principles and the concepts, the scientific concepts and principles, which I call the bare bones of IRT. Whenever I do training, I invite people to put their own words onto what I call the bare bones of the different steps, the different principles. And so I'll be taking you through just one particular version of this tonight collectively. And then you don't have to remember, don't have to know it, because we know that every thought, every emotion has a chemistry, right? It has a chemical signature from the brain into the body. And so each step in what I call the protocol is like another ingredient where you're making and marinating a soup of wholeness, unique to you, your unique flavor. And so the first one will be a carrot, maybe a piece of celery, whatever all the ingredients are of that chemistry of wholeness. And then you allow your superconscious to go in and shift and neutralize, as to say, let go of those informational patterns that are no longer serving any useful positive purpose beyond your conscious mind, much the same way as you'd run a defrag or antiviral program in your regular computer. You just, say what you want, and then you press the button. And then while that's happening on your computer, you just get to go and surf the web or go have a nap or make yourself a coffee or whatever. And so it's the same idea here, only we have 100 trillion cells worth of intelligence doing that with us and for us. And it's really phenomenal in the results. People have healed broken bones in 10 minutes doing this protocol.
That's amazing. So, Sue wants to know, when you mentioned wormholes in the cells, that's alluding to Nassim Harameyn's work. Is it right?
Well, yes, it is, and actually, I learned that specifically from William Brown, in the Resonance Science Academy. And I actually bumped into William at the first and only, so maybe I think it's the only delegate retreat at a place called 1440 in California in 2019 in the summer. And I just kind of bumped into him. He was on his way, munching something on his way to do his presentation. I said, oh, William, do you have a sec? And I said, can I just ask you if I'm misrepresenting what you said? I don't want to be, telling people tales that aren't true. And it was just what I shared with everyone here. And he said, oh, yeah. And because I often have this thought, who counts these things anyway? Who knows? We have 200 trillion cells, or I guess it's an average, or they compute these things. I have no clue. And but he's so cute. I love William. And he said, yeah, that's right. He said, oh, and my favorite thing to do is count those wormholes. And I went, oh.
How is he defining wormholes? I mean, it's
dimensional? Yeah, dimensional. Yeah, because every cell is a black white hole. Our whole body, our whole planet, our whole universe. And that was postulated as a theory by Nissen many years ago. And it's actually been proven by other scientists and other peer-reviewed studies now available that, and of course, we always thought a black hole and a white hole were separate entities, basically separate systems, because a black hole, as we know all about black holes, that's just that, everything gets absorbed into a black hole. And white holes are the creative power, of the universe. Galaxies and stars are born, that's the white hole effect, the explosive outward creation. And so guess what? This is who we are. We're breathing in the collective consciousness. We're breathing in the field of potential. We're making meaning of it from our own filters and our own ability to create, co-create. And then we're responding and adding in to that field of consciousness. We're co-creating together.
Yeah, Nassim did, he's done a number of videos. He did a great one a few years back called The Black Hole, WHOLE, which talked about the event horizon and all of that. It's a good, if you haven't seen it,
it's a great video because, Judy, it encapsulates in that 1 hour, 4 to 6 hours of his original videos, which are available on YouTube. And it's about 4 to 6 hours of information going down all those other rabbit holes. But so the black hole, WHOLE, is a compilation, is a condensed version of the main points of what he covers in those other hours.
Oh, good. Robert wants to know, what is your best practice for identifying negative thoughts and clearing them out so we can be in a continuous flow of recycling the energy and focusing on what's important?
I am just going to give you an experience of that right now.
I was going to say that sounds like a good summary of
yeah. Well, it's not even a summary because this is such a different paradigm, and you don't have to identify anything. It's already known in your field. It's known by your superconscious. It's known by your subconscious, and we have a shortcut. And it's not a spiritual bypass. It's anything but that. How I started to describe it is like a Trojan horse that goes directly into your heart of knowing, and then from within you, all heaven breaks loose, because everything that is unlike love, as Rumi would say, we don't go seeking for love. We seek to clear all the barriers to love. And so just like Michelangelo, when he was asked, like, wow, that David is incredible. How did you do that? It's so meticulously detailed, and you carved it out of marble. Like, that's unbelievable. And he just said, hey, he was already in there. All I did was chip away what wasn't him. So this is the job of our superconscious when we allow and delegate up, if you will, after setting some agreements in place that make it safe. And the agreements are really, I think, what makes this work so profound, because it takes care of a lot of our collective conscious beliefs that we've accumulated, of our limitations, like beware of the quick fix. There's no gain without pain. um, all these things, right? And so there's a different reality of potential as we re-identify ourselves with being spiritual. Yeah, Florence, bye. Thanks for showing up and enjoy your choir practice. And, you can come back and watch the rest and get the full-blown experience whenever you're available. And you can watch it over and over as many times as you want. And so, yeah, and it's so elegant because it's so simple. You don't have to know anything. There's nothing to know. There's nothing to re-experience, because truly it's at the tip of the iceberg anyway, and all we've known at the conscious level, have to lop off the top part and, the next part comes up, right? Lop it off. Here it comes again. And so this allows the whole iceberg, that's under the sub, our conscious level in the underlying realms to have a bunch of holes melted, so that the whole thing dissolves a lot faster, and again as appropriate for that person.
And this includes generational trauma
Absolutely.
or ancestral
Absolutely.
trauma.
Yeah, I worked for 3 years delivering training to people, to First Nations, to Native Americans for the Bureau of Indian Affairs between 96 and 98 inclusive. And it was really such a joy to watch, because they're all physically related anyway in their communities, and watch that ripple effect, how everybody. And the truth is, for each of us, whether we know each other or not, there's a range. The definition of resonance in physics is that there's a range of frequencies that actually entrain up. The more coherent, aligned energies actually entrain up. So that old saying, if you want to fly with the eagles, don't hang around with turkeys. It's not actually true, because it would appear to be true. However, the underlying truth of the science of it is that nothing can bring us down except our own unresolved stuff in our subconscious that is vibrating at the same frequency as of what enters our field. And so from that point of view, if there's too much dissonance, and I call it also cognitive dissonance, if this sounds too good to be true and there's resistance that's not ready to be shifted, well, that's okay. Or when you're doing your inner work, whether it's at work, or in relationships, there gets to be that stress, right? That push pull. And sometimes it's like oil and water. And if the other situation or person doesn't shift in resonance with our, increasing experience of our greater self and our greater freedom, then there's a natural separation that happens. And it's really okay, because that moves us into the direction of our greater service and our greater good. And so it allows us to, detach from certain outcomes. It's just really a gift. And I was just saying earlier that, when each part of the protocol is chemistry and we're creating a super wholeness, well, at the very end, I'll guide you through 5 deeper breaths that will allow you to anchor in this new level of wholeness, this new coherency, this new access to your greater self, and new level of ability to choose from a fresh perspective, in a spaciousness of your greater self. And so I don't know, gosh, I talk a lot, don't I? Why don't we go right into a direct experience? And then if anybody has any more questions and they're still relevant after you experience this, we're here. That sounds good, Judy?
That sounds great.
Excellent. So yes, so just allowing yourself to be present with your breath. Just breathing in any old way. There's no special way to do anything here. As Rumi says, between, beyond the idea of right doing and wrong doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. So this is what we're breathing in. We're breathing in the field of oneness, beyond negative, positive, between right and wrong, beyond all that. We're breathing in the oneness, source energy, whatever name you want to put on it. And so as you remember the truth of who you are, and you're breathing your portion, your spirit, part of Great Spirit and the all of everything that is. You just get to breathe and remember who you truly are. And if you happen to have any particular beliefs in spiritual support, now is the opportunity to say yes and thank you to your spiritual team, whatever that might be for you. And just a side note that if you're agnostic or atheist, it's okay, because, hey, we are it. Just like in our lives here in this dimension, it's up to us. No one's going to come along and save us necessarily, right? It's up to us. And so, but we do have friends and community. Same, we have friends and depending on what you believe, but we are it. So that's the most important piece to know. You're breathing in your full capacity that is just filtered at the moment and limited by static. So now just being aware of where your body is touching the world around you, because you are, as we mentioned, sitting in a miracle machine. And so we just want to know that, pain, trauma, stress tends to contract us, to protect ourselves. As Bruce says, you can't be in growth and protection at the same time. Everything kind of gets hampered, including your blood flow, everything, when we get, contracted and tight. So we're all constantly, looking to ways of de-stressing ourselves, because we understand the deleterious effect of stress of every kind in our lives. So just allowing now to switch on the programs. And remember, consciousness runs the body. So let us, mind, body, being. So let's just, it's a voice activated system, which is why affirmations can work. And so we're going to say the word switch on body. Just play along with me, as crazy as it might sound. And I'm going to count to 3, and maybe Judy and I can say it together, and then all of you can, join in to the great choir that's gathered here. Okay, words are switch on body. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Switch on body. Yay! All right, so we're plugged in. We're switched on our communication device now. We're at the command center, believe it or not. So just play along. So the operative words are not I intend, because intend is a future word, isn't it? And we're relating to our quantum timeless selves that is infinite here now. So I am choosing freedom of whatever, blank you want to fill in there for yourself, whatever limiting situation that you have on any aspect of yourself. And take you a moment. It's a one-stop shopping, and I know sometimes the list is very long, but if there are some main things that you want to test this out on and see any potential benefits appear, take a moment. And also you can go to the other side and say, I am choosing creation of. However, first time usually, and the beginning is usually, clearing the field so that anything that we are choosing creation of has a clearer space and more potential available.
Can you say that the first thing is I'm
choosing freedom of whatever limiting condition that you have, something you want to feel better about or optimize. Everybody got something in mind? Okay. And so my job as facilitator is to broaden and deepen that potential. So then I say, so is it okay to allow all unresolved issues that are no longer serving any useful positive purpose or have any current relevance to be addressed and shifted in whatever ways are best for you here right now? Yes. And is it all right to allow any ways that any unresolved issues, known and unknown, can be, have been up until this moment, interfering unnecessarily with your physical body, with your mind, and all the old programs and conditioning responses that we're so normalized to, and our emotional selves to be at peace, unconditional inner peace, and happy for no reason. Like, what a concept. And then, of course, finances can be a big thing these days for many of us. And then relationships, because everything's connected. And yeah, it's all entangled. Sometimes it feels more tangled than others, right? So we also want to really focus on that main relationship with us and our greater selves and source of all that is. And so now, allowing all levels of memory to be addressed, your whole life, every microsecond, going all the way back to when you popped into the world, all that time you swam around inside, drinking up your mama's soup, right to the moment you were conceived. And all of the generational memory of your ancestors, of your DNA, to be also addressed and neutralized as no longer needed or wanted by you. Your higher self knows all of that. Your superconscious knows. So we just delegate up, throw that into the big pot, the big superconscious pot, and then allowing all of our multidimensional selves. Oh, yeah, sorry, a few more layers of memory. So your whole life, your ancestral memory, your soul memory, past, present, which involves concurrent and parallel realities. So the scientists tell us, future, all kind of collapse into this fresh moment, free, and new level of choice available. Connection, inspiration, and creative solutions are always available when we get out of our own way. And so then we have the memory that we talked about earlier of the whole collective memory of the field of breathing each other in and out, and the molecules of memory since the beginning of time. Then we also have galactic memory, whatever that might mean or not to you, the cosmic field of memory, whatever that is, really opening the door really wide. And now we're allowing all of your multidimensional selves to be coherently realigned around a whole new level of expression of being your healthiest self, your happiest self, even maybe happy for no reason, really abundant, being in that flow of trust that knowing all is well, and ability to collaborate and co-create and be inspired and feeling really on purpose, because we all have the heart for humanity, because we're all part of each other. And these are times where we're all needing to be called into service, even just by being our best selves. That's enough. Being who we are, being compassionate and loving kindness, having that available to us more unconditionally, or being able to come back into that space a little faster. And so allowing then, this work's all about allowing. There's nothing really to do except to say yes to the part of you that knows how to shift everything into a different alignment, a different way of being, which is your true self, which is always waiting within you, like David with Michelangelo. And so now, more agreements are that, are you choosing to allow everything to unfold in the safest and most appropriate ways for you and all concerned at all times? That's important, isn't it? And are you allowing greater ease and gentleness of how all this happens? We sure are conditioned and know all about the struggle. So we're just opening up to another possibility. So are you open to that possibility of greater ease and gentleness and how things are shifted in our lives into a better place? Yeah, the answer would be yes. And are you open to allowing effortless grace to guide the way to instant and permanent shift of what's no longer necessary and that's ready at this time? Another operative phrase, yes. And what may not be ready will maybe be ready tonight or tomorrow or next year. And trusting and knowing you'll have another tool of continuous, defrag, continuous clearing, continuous reconnection to, the truth of you. Every time we get triggered, and there's no end of those opportunities, it seems, these days. And so knowing that you have another tool that with each spike in reactivity, that we have opportunity to do a simple touch breath and clear not only that reactivity of where that came from, everything that's associated and connected with that. However, all of everything that's sitting in the background waiting, waiting for that energy to be triggered, to neutralize it proactively and preventatively. How sweet would that be? And so, yeah, so trusting that everything is unfolding in its own time, in its own way, in the bigger picture that we don't have yet. So being open to that, trusting more deeply, and the more you experience, the more that we can really trust that, right? Experience leads to trust, and positive experience leads to trust. And so then the next question, are you allowing the part of you that's saying yes to all of this to happen in this way? Opening up to something different being possible in a different way that you might not have heard of or even thought possible. Allowing that part of you that's open to having that happen to be in charge. Yes. Excellent. And are you allowing the part of you that knows how the heck to do all this? If it was just simply a conscious choice, we would have done that a long time ago. And I'll be, singing Kumbaya together somewhere in a beautiful heaven on earth. And we are, I believe, co-creating that as we are being pushed into crisis mode, which always, crisis is the mother of invention. So when we're at crisis, we're pushed out back into the corner. We need to solve things differently, and as I think Bucky Fuller or somebody, I'm sorry, I'm mixing up my author at this moment, but that we can't solve. Maybe it was Einstein again, good old Einstein. We can't solve the problem with the same level of consciousness that created it. So that's why this is so awesome, because it clears the static and it puts you into the center of connection, where all solutions are from the present moment. And then we're guided forward, and new solutions from that different level of the superconscious get inspired. Yeah. And so allowing now that part of it does know how, the freedom to go play beyond your conscious mind's ability to track or need to think or do or make anything happen, and beyond your body's need to act anything out unnecessarily, except just to receive and feel good and be receptive, and allowing, in much the way that we will press the enter button on a computer and then just go and surf, go on virtual vacation somewhere. So the invitation is to allow yourself to drift wherever you feel like drifting. And it's not in the same sense that we would do a conscious visualization to change anything. It's about a distraction for your conscious mind at this moment. And so just allow your mind to drift in that place where there is no time. And just breathing in and out with awareness of your heart center, because we sure know that creates coherence in and of itself. And what's being added now is that deeper sense of clearing our field from all times, all places, on all aspects of who we are in that informational field through our superconscious mind that knows all. So at the simplest level, just focusing on your breath and or imagining being somewhere peaceful is lovely, while all of this is getting taken care of automatically in the background. And it doesn't matter, you don't have to believe. My tagline for this work is beyond belief, creating new realities. It's all about allowing and being open and being willing to be open. It's all that's required. And just breathing in and out, 360 from your heart center, from the core of your beingness. And just allowing yourself to notice if you're feeling a bit more relaxed, feeling a bit more expanded, whatever it is. Or you don't need to be feeling anything. And you might just want to add in some thoughts of gratitude, things that bring you joy or that you appreciate about anything. Doesn't matter how small it is, it's the frequency, it's the chemistry that we're adding in to this chemistry of wholeness that is starting to marinate and bubble up. And just breathing with awareness in and out of our center of our beings, our heart centers, however you interpret that, with thoughts of good thoughts, of peacefulness, of gratitude. And notice where your hands happen to be or where maybe your tongue is in your mouth. And choosing a spot that we can anchor in, a switch for our wholeness, for all the positive um, ability to recenter ourselves. So have you got your spot? Sometimes people like to use their heart, but there's something, that you can do no matter who you're with, what your situation is, wherever you are. So you can even do both, your heart or something else. If you meditate and you do the finger and thumb, that's always a cool place. Tongue on the roof of your mouth. But the body's holographic, and so it doesn't matter. There's no better choice than another. Maybe it's just your hands touching. Whatever it is, just notice and feel your choice. You can always change it at any old time because it's yours. And so simultaneously streaming awareness, I call it marinating awareness with this end result chemistry of feeling good. As Wayne Dyer said, good is just God with an extra O. So we get to feel the God within us, feeling that deeper sense of relaxation, of peacefulness. As you're noticing the touch, wherever your touch is. As you're noticing your breath in and out of your heart center, in presence with thoughts of gratitude, of love, appreciation. And I'm inviting you into 5 deeper breaths. That's a new program, Chemical Memory in the Brain, works through associative conditions. So we're creating a positive trigger, if you will, a positive switch. And we're inviting all levels of consciousness to notice and use this breath and this touch as a reactivation of this chemistry of wholeness anytime you want it, especially at bedtime, upon awakening, and anytime during the day that you want, or you want to bring yourself back into a balanced state if you get triggered. So now just taking that first deeper breath as you're touching your spot. And as you exhale, just let go of where you're touching. And the next breath in, touch your spot again. And breathing out, just let go. And 3 more times in your own rhythm. Breathing in, touching, breathing out, letting go. And as Judy is one with the collective consciousness of all the souls on the call here, she's opened her eyes and she's smiling. So this is a perfect moment if you have some kind of project or a vision that you want to create, to now add that into your thoughts, because you're in a clear space, and so there's an amplified zone. And maybe it is seeing the world as you would hope it to be. Maybe it's your own personal world. Maybe it's a condition in your body or a project. Whatever it is you're choosing, I'm choosing creation of in this new space, available, free of static. Do you have anything like that in your mind, Judy? You don't have to share it, but I'm just wondering. Yeah, of course. You have got a beautiful heart and soul. So when you have it in mind, do 3 more touch breaths. Bippity boppity boo, it's our magic wand. So how's everybody doing out there? Are there any comments of how you're feeling?
Is this a good space to bring in affirmations as well?
Absolutely.
Yes.
And remember, with affirmations, the formula is present tense, first person, positive.
Josh mentions the work of Joachim Whippich, who's an FMBR member, and all of his affirmations are I am. They're in the
fantastic.
Absolutely. The I am principle.
Absolutely, I completely agree with that, because you're claiming it. That's the next level. Yeah.
Exactly.
What I take people through or invite them when they're doing 5 sessions with me, because the first time subconscious gets something a little different, and even though you get an overwhelming wonderful experience, to go, what, how did that happen? I didn't do anything. How did that happen? And then how long is this going to last? And so there's that doubt that can come up. Again, that's that cognitive dissonance. And then the experience of, your logical and your emotional sides of your brain, and then greater integration of 4, nice solid geometry. And then 5, oh my goodness, scientists called the ether, the 5th element, sacred geometry, equilateral triangles. 5 is the number of positive change. The principle of 5 is the building block of nature, the Vitruvian man, the honeycomb. That's the perfect geometry of nature. And 5 is the number of grace. And I just found that out about 5 years ago. I think it's pretty cool. Yeah, really pretty cool, because this work is all about effortless grace. So it's built more on a feminine principle of receptivity, that there's nothing to do and everything to allow. And then the outcomes are shown, to you, and asked to be shown, because we go then into a new level organically and effortlessly of normal. And we don't even remember, how we felt before, because this is our new normal, pardon the phrase. and Robert, that's excellent. It's a good practice that you can incorporate into your meditation. Right on. And that's the next thing I have to say. So thank you for that comment, because just even a single touch breath before and after meditation, before any of your practices, before any of your modalities and techniques, before getting massage and after, even before, taking supplements or medications that you need, because what happens then, it optimizes the efficiency of what you're taking for the purpose of which you're taking it. And in case of pharmaceuticals that are required, it allows any unwanted effects to be filtered out. And then you get the specific purpose targeted to the areas of concern, so to speak. So it makes everything more efficient, no matter what it is you're doing.
I love the invoking of the feminine principle and just the allowing of that awareness to come through, that awareness of wholeness, and the reminder with the touch breaths, so that we're not having to kind of wrestle an issue to the ground and like, rip out old programming that, it's
you can if you want.
Hey, we are in a third dimensional experience. You can have the experience you want, but I think
absolutely. Yeah,
it's very gentle, and it's at the same time grounding and expanded as well.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry for interrupting like that. I just get excited. And and it's really it's full of grace, and it's really surprising. And so I always invite people to notice. Another wonderful way to interact with your touch breath is whenever something glorious or wonderful or peaceful or beautiful rose comes your way, or a sunset, or wonderful rainbow. I love rainbows. I'm a Kauai girl. I haven't been over there since 2.5 years now, my spiritual home. So, but when you encounter something that feels really, really good and wonderful and heartwarming, you just do your touch breath and add that in. So you're building on the strength of that all the time as well. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I had a text from a friend who said she's very appreciative of the way you explain things.
Oh, thanks.
Feels very approachable, and there's a very gentle energy around this.
Thank you. Yeah, and and it is it's really profound, in the outcomes that some people have. It's and you have it all built in now. You've got your own program, your own touch breath, and if you feel you want to need some one-on-one or some extra experience, I've been building some new programs like Be Michelangelo, and more understandings called Essential IRT, for people to come in on a call with me and do some Q&A and some more information of answering all the questions, so that we're all always redefining and codefining and understanding with all the wisdom that we have contributed in that space together. I love that.
You're doing this in a group setting, you said? Is that
Yeah, I was just actually just about to launch an opportunity, but I have a lot of business going on, and technology is not my my most greatest of my gifts. So developing all that, and I got support and help, and so this it's on the way. So I'm rebuilding my website right now, but there's still MaureenEdwardson.com that you can go to and connect with me. Anybody that connects with me from this call, to say FMBR, and I can shoot you a complimentary copy of my book, Your Magical Evolutionary Code Unleashed: The Science of Inner Resonance, endorsed on the front cover with Dr. Bruce Lipton. I feel so blessed. And then also, it's in PDF form right now, and I'm working on an audio version for the fall. Coming up to the 11th birthday of my book baby, November 11th, because I released it 11/11/11.
Wow.
And so here we go. So I'm hoping to have an audio version. I'm planning, I'm creating. God help me. I have a friend that just did an audiobook, and oh great, I can pick her brain and she can, help me. So it's in the works, and all kinds of opportunities. And there's a place on my website and the contact form where you can also ask to be on the, on the newsletter. And I don't bombard anyone. In fact, very rarely do I send anything out. So then, you'll have ability to hear about what's ready. when it's launching. Yeah.
It's an exciting year for creation, I think, and these new, a lot of new is coming with the in the crises, like you said. Crises are times of real transformation and advancement, even as we see things falling away. So
yes. Mm-hmm. So Roberta, just go to my website, maureenedwardson.com, shoot me a message from the contact form, and then I will have your email and I'll send it out to you.
Okay, so it's maureenedwardson.com.
Yeah, Maureen. Oh, there's my name right there. And no space, and add the number 3, numeral 3, at gmail.com. That's the more reliable email. And however, but if you go to maureenedwardson.com, it'll come off my my website email, and that's fine too. Sorry about that. Don't mean to cause confusion in the ranks. But I'd be happy to share it. I love to share.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for this experience and for your talk and for being here, and for your work toward creating a more positive future, right? A more birthing a higher consciousness on this planet, which is what's so needed right now.
Absolutely. And remember, this is like a Trojan horse. You might not think anything's happening or happened. Oh, watch for all heaven to
pay attention. Pay attention.
Pay attention. Are there any other feedback or questions?
Don't have any questions that I see.
Okay. Thank you for your thank yous.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, a sustainable future. Wonderful. Okay. Thank you all.
There's one more question from Barbara. Is there a particular way to end this exercise? Well, the particular way is your touch breath. And so I've guided you through that. And you don't have to do 5. You can only do 1, because much like a computer program that you've downloaded, you've ticked off the boxes of your choice, and then you save it. And then you have an icon on your desktop that you, one click and one breath, that runs the program. It's all end result chemistry. It's the simplest but most confusing part of this. And that way you're giving yourself a whole session every time you do a touch breath.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you again. Thank you to everyone who joined us and everyone who's watching the recording. Have a lovely evening. Stay cool out there, because we're in full on summer now. So if you're in the Northern Hemisphere. All right. Thank you. And until next time, blessings to all.